Hey folks, it's Carmen here from Urban Farm School. Today we're in our workshop here at the Urban Farm Permaculture Project in Calgary, and we're getting ready to sow our seeds. And I thought we'd just throw you a really short video to talk about some of the different kinds of seed starting containers that you can use for growing your veggies. So typically I have a tendency to use this type of setup where you've got a tray and then you've got different size cell packs, and they also come, if you buy that as a kit, you can buy a lid for your seed starting tray. For me, that's a really convenient setup because I start so many seeds, but I wanted to talk about some options today for you. So as you know, you can purchase these seed packs, seed cell packs at most garden centers. They come in many different sizes. This one is about 1.5 to 2 inches. And then we've got this one, which is just a little over 1 inch for smaller things like lettuces. I prefer to start my tomatoes and peppers in this size because I don't have to transplant them to larger pots as soon as I would if I put them into these small pots. But there's more options. I mean, we have these peat pots. I think these have interesting applications. However, I'm not a real fan of these, and I'll tell you why. One of the reasons is that, number one, the size is very small, but also because we're keeping some of our vegetables under lights inside here in the Northern Hemisphere for a long period of time. We're starting our tomatoes late February, early March, and they're hanging out in pots for quite a while. And then you want to transplant them. So that's fine if you want to take them completely out of these pots, but if you plan on taking this and transplanting it into a larger pot and expect this to break down inside, it just won't, and you'll be having restricted roots. So I really rarely ever start seeds in these pots, and honestly, one of the selling features for these is that, you know, they're supposed to biodegrade in the soil. But traditionally, I really haven't found that that's happened very effectively. So personally, I'm not a big fan of these. There are also other options such as, you know, reusing existing plastic containers such as this one, which salad and spinach came in. The cool thing about this is if you poke a few holes in the bottom, you can end up with a really great little setup where you've got some plants growing, and while they're germinating, you can put the lid on, and once they're done, you can take the lid off. That's really cool. And this is basically the same idea. This was a salad container, and I poked a few holes in, and I've got some green onions started in this. And there's also options such as making your own paper pots, which is kind of a cool idea. But again, because we are starting our seeds so early here in the Northern Hemisphere, I find that by the time they need to be transplanted to a larger pot, the newspaper has actually started to degrade, and you don't have that same structure for your roots that you really want to support them. However, there's another fantastic option that I'd like to show you, and that's what's called a soil blocker. Now, a soil blocker is basically a containerless block of soil into which you can plant your seeds. And if you notice here on the bottom, there's these little protrusions here, which actually will, once you create your soil blocks, create a little dibble into which you can place your seed. So I'd like to show you how that works. You need a tray to put your soil blocks in once they're done. And this is a seed starting mix I made earlier. And typically to use these, I find that you need to have a slightly wetter soil mix than if you're just using a pot. So we're just going to go ahead and push that into the soil. And you can see it's actually quite firm in there. And then we'll just go ahead and squeeze those out. It's actually really, really easy. And what's really awesome about this is how much fun kids have doing this. Especially if the soil mix is quite light, like this one is. It has a lot of compost. So it's really fun and super satisfying. It's kind of like making chocolate brownies. It's really great. But one of the downsides of this is that you pretty well want to fill an entire tray. Otherwise, the edges end up sort of drying out. But a really great thing about this is that when you're growing something in a pot this size or even this size, if your plants are in that pot for quite a while, they're going to become root bound. And what happens when they become root bound is they send their roots around and around. The interesting thing about soil blocks is that that doesn't happen, because once the roots reach the edge of the soil block, they kind of self-prune. So they actually won't go around and around, and it means that it's healthier for your plant. So anyway, that's a really fun project for kids and adults alike. It's really satisfying as well. So those are some of the options for seed starting containers. There are so many out there. It's important to find the one that's right for you. This is the one I prefer. I use it all the time. And I love these because even though they're plastic, I get to reuse them year after year after year. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video on seed starting containers. If you've enjoyed today's video, please do consider subscribing to our YouTube channel at Urban Farm School, and check out our website online at urbanfarmschool.ca, where you can learn to grow some awesome.